Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Ite Namani.
Some of my family members are Christian and some are Muslim. And my parents, they came up to New York, to the north, as many African Americans did in the Great Migration, they call it, the 30s and 40s, to find jobs in the north. And they were very suspicious of white people, considering the history of African American and transatlantic slavery and so forth. So they were very skeptical about me joining the temple. But I used to go to the Sunday feast, and I'd come back with Prasadam, and I'd come back with Holiver and Pakoras, and my dad loved them. And when I said, Dad, I'd like to join these people, they said that I could join. He says, well, no, I don't know about those people. And then I said, but Papa, they believe God is black. And my father, I remember his eyes. He said, what? He said, now that's what I'm talking about. Those people, yeah. Then, shortly thereafter, my uncle called him up because my Aunt Louise was downtown and she saw me on the Harinam party. And I remember she just stood there and looked at me like this. She was shocked. She couldn't even say anything. I just kept chanting. She went home and told my Uncle Eddie. My Uncle Eddie called my father and he said, Roy, Louise was downtown and she saw your boy on the corner with those Hare Krishna people, bothering people, handing out candies and magazines and asking them for money. What's going on with that? And him and my father, they had a bit of discussion, and he said, look, the boy told me that they worship God and they believe that God's black. My Uncle Eddie said, what? Those people believe that God's a brother? He said, all right, we're going down there. We're going to see this for ourselves. So Sunday feast come. Dozens of people from my family members came. My grandmother came, my cousins, my brothers, my sisters, my aunts. They all came to the temple. Beautiful Sunday feast. The devotees sat them down. They gave them a nice prasadam. They got to see the deities, and they saw for themselves that indeed these white people are worshiping this God who's black. And not only that, not only is he a brother, but he's musical. He plays the flute too. So we know he's God. Yeah. So when I decided that, yes, I would like to join, my father said, yep, they worship God. God's a brother. Yeah, you can join. It's a true story. Yep, you can join because he's black, and we know black is beautiful. So it's good. It was in the Brooklyn Henry Street Temple, 1975. Srila Prabhupada came to town, and a whole bunch of devotees, we went to the airport, and we were told that Srila Prabhupada would be coming down this escalator. So we're all standing in JFK Airport, chanting. You can't do that anymore these days. And we were told he's coming down the escalator, but then he wasn't. We were told he's coming from this direction, and then everyone turned around, ran towards Srila Prabhupada. And I saw Prabhupada walking, and I thought, oh, yes, yes. And I was just filled with the excitement of, finally meeting the spiritual master. But I had an interesting exchange with him. He was sitting on the Vyasasana in the temple, giving a lecture. And I was right next to the Vyasasana, and one of the devotees, Vidyabhushan Prabhu, I believe his name was, he was fanning Srila Prabhupada. But he was also recording on one of those old reel-to-reels. He was an audio man. And he had to swap the tape over. And he said, here, take the fan and fan Srila Prabhupada. And I said, well, how do I do? What do I do? He said, were you watching me? I said, yes. He said, well, then you do what I was doing. So I took the fan and I started doing this. And Srila Prabhupada was giving the lecture, and he turned and he looked at me like this. And this is what I did. And then he turned back and continued with the lecture. I took that look to me, slow down, young man, slow down. Yeah. And I had another exchange. A year and a bit later, at the Detroit temple, my fire sacrifice. Srila Prabhupada was sitting on the Abhilasa, and the devotees were doing the jagya. And when it came time to go up, during the Guru Puja, to offer our flowers to Srila Prabhupada, I walked up to him, and I handed him a flower, and he just looked at me and gave me the biggest smile. But I interpreted that smile as meaning, oh yes, this is the same boy who was fanning me crazily some time ago. He's still here chanting and doing service. Very nice, very nice. That was my interpretation of his smile. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. 1975, when Prabhupada came to New York, he was also in Philadelphia for the Rath Yatra. And I remember there was one cart, and I remember he was sitting on the cart, and all the devotees were pulling and fanning and chanting. And I remember thinking, he looks like a king. He was just sitting there, and everyone was around, and it was really nice. Again, his stature, the way he sat, his glance at everyone, his joy. Because 10 years prior, now this is 1975, 10 years prior, he was sitting under a tree with a pair of car towels. And in 10 years, look what has happened. See, this is also one of the things that really fires me up about Srila Prabhupada. The fact that an old man came from India, heart attacks, came to the Bowery in New York. They're crazy people, drug people, bad people. And what did he do? With a pair of car towels, he sat underneath a tree and chanted. And from that, a worldwide movement evolved. He has left his name within the annals of history. He has touched the lives of countless people, touched my life. My mother, I told you this earlier, my mother told me some years ago, she said, son, you are very fortunate because when you were young, you met your Savior. Now, I joined the movement when I was 14 years old, and I took first initiation at 16. She said, you met your Savior. When she told me that, it hit me right here, because I knew it was true. Because she looks at my life now and she says, you have achieved amazing things. And I know if I had not joined ISKCON or met Srila Prabhupada, my life would most probably be one of a dubious nature. Yeah. So I believe I was blessed. Most certainly, of course, I was blessed. 14 years old, join the temple, meet the pure devotee of the Lord, take initiation, do some personal service for him, get him to smile at you. I most certainly am blessed. That's right. I believe it. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now, I told you earlier that I had joined the temple when I was 14. Well, I was still I was in high school, and I used to go to the temple. I had moved into the temple, and I was going to high school from the temple. And I remember one of the devotees said, well, after I shaved up, I was thinking, oh man, what do I do? What do I do? And one of the devotees said, well, now that you shaved up, you're still going to school. You're representing Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON, so you have to go to school wearing a dhoti and tilak. And I said, what? So I did. Now, firstly, I used to carry spare tilak in. Do you remember those old Kodak film canisters, the black with the gray cap? I used to carry some spare tilak in that to put tilak on. And I used to wear dhoti and kurta to school. Yeah? Now imagine this. Friday, here I am in school. Monday I come back, I got a shaved head, a sika, dhoti, and tilak. Man, I tell you, some of the teachers were like, what's going on? Some of my friends were like, well, we ain't hanging out with you anymore. Now, one day, I'm walking out of school. I'm heading toward the train station, heading back to the temple. Yeah, I got my dhoti on, I got my book bags, and these kids start throwing snowballs at me. It was like winter, right? They were throwing snowballs. I was across the street, and I thought, how am I going to take this? It's on. So I walked across the street. I was ready for her, right? So I got over there, and I said, what are you guys throwing these snowballs at me for? And I remember one of them said, man, you dressed like a fool. And I said, right, okay. Then I had this thought in my mind. If I fight them, and they rip my dhoti off, and I'm wearing Brahmin underwear, that's going to be embarrassing and cold. And then I also thought, well, okay, all right. I am representing, because the devotees are always saying, you're representing ISKCON and Srila Prabhupada. And I thought, okay, the thought of Prabhupada in my mind and fighting, that just didn't go. So I thought, okay, I won't fight them in my dhoti. So I turned to walk away. I didn't turn back to look at them. And they were throwing snowballs at me. And the snowballs were going here and going there and over my head, and none of them hit. And none of them hit me. Now, I don't know if they were just throwing them off to the side, or if I was like, in the mood of Prahlad Maharaj, and they were throwing the snowballs, and Lord Srigade was making them go. I don't know. But none of them hit me. Yeah, imagine that. Fighting I was thinking, man, if they pull my dhoti off and they start swinging it around, and I'm standing there butt naked. Oh, no. Ooh, yeah. You're laughing. Srila Prabhupada had many qualities. Of the 26 qualities, there's so many that really impress me. But if there was one quality that impresses me the most, and that is heroism. Why? Because of the story that I mentioned earlier about him fearlessly coming from India, going to New York, sitting under the tree, dealing with all sorts of craziness and mishaps and heart attack, and starting his worldwide ISKCON movement. He was a hero. Fearlessness as well. He was fearless in order to do that. He was fearless. Spiritual awareness, Srila Prabhupada's. One of the things I'm really impressed by is Srila Prabhupada's intellect. I must admit, my vocabulary, my pronunciation, my diction, has all come about due to reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Why? I'll tell you why. Do you consider me to be a man of intelligence? Nicely spoken, articulate? Well, I never finished high school. But I accredit my intellect and my usage of the English language to Srila Prabhupada's books. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would read his books, and I would also have a dictionary, because some of the words I was unfamiliar with these words, and I'd read it, and then I'd look it up in the dictionary and go, yes. So when in a circle or when around people who are older than myself, I'm able to speak to them nicely as a man of intelligence. Do you know I have gotten many jobs in the past, and people automatically assume that yes, of course this man went to the university. Listen to the way he speaks. Srila Prabhupada's books, definitely. Yeah. And another thing, the Sanskrit, learning Sanskrit. I was told that Sanskrit is actually sung, not spoken like we're speaking English. So when we would have kirtans or bhajans, the different melodies, some of the melodies, just the Sanskrit language. In Sanskrit, it's called Devanagari, which means the language of the gods. See, stuff like that, hits me, like deeply. When I came to the temple and I saw the paintings in the temple of the demigods, Krishna, Arjuna, the warriors, the chariots. See, I'm a warrior. That's obvious. The chariots, the armor, the bows and arrows and the stories. Just captivated me. I love the Mahabharata. I love it. Yes. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness. You see, this really hit my intelligence, even at a young age of 14 years old, reading about Krishna immediately. See, when I was 11 years old, I tried reading the Iliad, Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, and I was only 11. I like philosophy. I like ancient readings. Yeah, these things appeal to me. And when I joined the temple, and it's just the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness is just the idea or the fact that God's a person, a supreme person. This really appealed to my intelligence, because coming from a family that's Christian and Muslim, we learned about God. So when I came to the temple, they were believers in God. I didn't have a problem with that. But to find out that God was actually a person, that really hit me here and here. Why? And it was explained to me like this: God is a person, a supreme person. And just like in the Bible, it says that God created man in his own image. And I would always wonder about that. But then the devotees explained it to me like this. Just like we have hair, eyes, fingers, hands, toes, and so on and so forth, so does God. So does God. And the reason why we have it is because he has it. And I thought, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Actually, I'll tell you a story. Do you want to hear a story? This is a good story. In my school once, I had several gentlemen from the local mosque here. There was an imam and a few of the other big dudes. And they were looking at my library. And in my library, I had the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, I had the Quran, the Bible, I had the Torah, the Kabbalah, I had lots of books. I have over 1,000 books in my personal library. And they were looking at it, and they were going, Ali, Shabazz, this is haram, this is no good, you've got these books and this and that. And also I had photos of the Sringadev and Krishna, and they were like, oh, this is haram, this is bad, this idol worship. No, this is wrong. I said, no. I said, these books, these photos, are these God? I said, these different beliefs. And then they said, no, but Allah, when you see Muslims do this, Allah is one. He has no partners. And I said, okay. I could see that I was ready for philosophical battle. So, adhering to my understanding of Vaishnava philosophy, mentally I was like, oh, roll my sleeves up, baby, it's on. It's a fight. We're going to get it on. So I said, okay. God is a person. And all these religions, all of them are correct. And they said, oh, no. I said, all right. You have to understand, the current that runs through all these different religions is, you be a good person. You go to your house of worship. You honor your parents, your family. You obey the laws of the land. You give some remuneration to your religious institution. These qualities run through all these religions. And they said, yes. I said, well, they are all good. Just like, for example, you say that Allah is one, right? I said, okay. My father is one person, I said to them. And the relationship I have with my dad is, say, different from my mother. Because she knows things about my father I will never know. She calls him sweetheart, honey, my husband. I call him father. His uncle says, oh, okay, well, he may be your father, but he's and your husband, but he's my brother. I know things about him. You, your wife, the wife, and the son, you don't know. His best friend will say, now, wait a minute. Your dad, he's my best friend. I know stuff the wife and the son don't know. My grandmother would say, well, hang on a second. I used to change his diapers. I know things about him none of y'all know. True? He said, yes. I said, well, my father's just one person. Yet he can be understood differently by different people and called different names. And you're telling me that God is one person, God is a person, and he can only be understood one way? So how is it possible that a mortal being can be understood diversely, and the supreme unlimited being can only be understood one way? Man, when I hit them with that, bam! They were like, ooh. That was the end of the discussion. Shortly thereafter, they left. They left. I said, all these religions, they're all correct. They just have different relationships with God. But they could not understand, even when they were philosophically defeated, smack, 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 smack. They couldn't accept. Yes, God is one. Yes, He's one. What is it that the Vedas say? Achitta Beta Beta Tattva. He's simultaneously one, yet different. Yeah, where did I get all this high knowledge from? Srila Prabhupada. My Guru Maharaj. Yeah. Uh-huh. Don't mess with me. That's right.
Jayanilo Prema Dona Karuna Prachu